welcome. We are here for episode 2 of Control Alt Deplete. I am Buckblind on the left side of the screen. Over to the right side, we have Mr. Bioshock over there. How's it going, Bioshock? How are you today?
Good, doing good. How are you?
Good, good. Got some stuff down around the house before we get started this, so can finally do my dishes in my sink once again. So that's a plus.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So we'll start off with the news. That first little point there. Uh, they announced all the tier set bonuses. We are going to be going over those a little bit in depth here later on. Bioshock did a lot of work getting a tier list together, so we're going to go over that. He's going to take us through that. And then
Yeah.
on, yep, so that'll be a lot of fun. And then they announced the version for Dragonflight, the version of the Creation Catalyst, which is going to be called the Inspiration Catalyst. And that will unlock 6 weeks after the Mythic Raid opens up, which is, I believe, December 12th, if I remember the date correctly. So 6 weeks after that, we're going to have the Inspiration Catalyst, which is where you can take your pieces of gear that you've gotten and turn them into tier pieces. Now, I know there's a lot of people that are not happy that it's going to be unlocked 6 weeks. What's your thoughts on that?
I honestly don't mind. I think it gives players something to do once it comes out. If it's out right away, people will get burnt out because they get everything done right away.
Yeah, I think a lot of the arguments I've seen about it were mainly based off of like people who don't do raid. Because if you
Um,
don't raid, you have to wait 6 weeks unless you just get lucky. In the Great Vault, you have to wait 6 weeks to get tier. Because I remember that was kind of a frustration at the start of season 3 was how long it took us to get our tier, our 4 set. Um, and realistically, if they wait till 6 weeks, you have to wait 10 weeks before you can get your 4 set essentially. Um,
yeah,
so I think a lot of people would like to see it like maybe the second or third week, perhaps. I personally think second week would be good because then you can pretty much guarantee yourself one piece of tier each week. Because even then, for people who aren't raiding, and even if you get unlucky during raiding, then you can have your full 4 piece tier set 5 weeks into the end of the season and be able to
yeah,
actually use it, which I think would be a lot of fun. Um, I think the other issue is so like the way that I've looked at it, I think Blizzard looks at it somehow as it's a catch-up mechanic, but it really isn't a catch-up mechanic except for on alts. That's about it. Um, as far as your mains, like it's not a catch-up mechanic at all. But that's how they look at it. I think what it is, the way that the players are looking at the creation catalyst is that it's more of a bad luck protection. At least that's how I look at it. I view it more as it should be a bad luck protection. So if you don't get any tier from doing raid or your vault, then you can guarantee yourself one piece per week.
yeah,
Um, honestly, if they made it to where if you get a piece of tier from either raid or from your vault, then you can't use it that week, I'd be fine with that.
yeah,
I think for me, I like it. I like to have it available as bad luck protection, essentially. All right, so moving on to the next point. What's that next part there?
scouting board for alts. That one.
Yep.
I
Um,
I have no idea what that is.
so that is actually something I discovered in a couple days before they said anything about it. That was so back in Legion and BFA. In Legion, once you um, went through and leveled, I don't even remember if it was. I think you could do it right away. You could level it. You could choose any of the 4 zones there to go and start your leveling in, and you could go anywhere. There was no linear path. You could choose any of the 4 zones, but you would have your scouting board in your class hall, and when you're in your class hall, you would choose one of the 4 zones and you would go and level that. BFA, similar thing. One of your 3 zones on your faction side, you go to your mission board, your scouting board, and be able to pick one of those 3 zones, and then that's where you did your questing for. Shadowlands, you can pick which zone you want to do if you take the Threads of Fate, but it doesn't really actually like you don't follow the quest line. Once you choose Threads of Fate, you no longer follow the campaign storyline. The campaign
Right.
storyline in BFA or in Shadowlands is a strictly linear. You go to Bastion, then you go to um,
Maldraxxus.
yes, Mount Draxus, thank you. And then you go to Ardenweld, and then you go to Revendreth, and you have to follow that
Yeah.
path every time. What they're doing
Yeah.
with this is basically kind of going back to the Legion version, is what I would say. Um, so once you still have to follow the storyline, the linear path of going through Waking Shores, and then the ONR Plains, whatever it's called, and then you go to the Azur, what's it called?
Azur's Band.
Yes, Azur Span, and then you go to Valdraxen, or my brain's not working right now, but yes, you go through that linear path the very first time. But then on any alts, you can then pick which zone you want to go to first. So if you know, don't want to do the quest in Waking Shores, you can go start somewhere else. Um, the other thing is that whenever you have your main, when you hit after you unlock world quests on your main, which happens through part of the Valdraxen storyline, I believe, at the
Yep.
very end of it. Once you've unlocked world quests on that, then all of your alts have world quests unlocked right away. So there are world quests available for you to use while you're leveling to get a little bit extra
Interesting.
experience. However, it doesn't. Some people compared it to like Threads of Fate and called it, oh, it's a new Threads of Fate system. It's not like Threads of Fate at all, because Threads of Fate gave you a bunch of bonus objectives and a progression bar that once you filled it up, gave you a boatload of experience.
Right.
That is not there yet. Now, maybe they're going to add that. I don't know. But as of right now, all this does is just allow for non-linear questing. And then you can also do world quests, but that was there. The world quests are going to be there whether you decide to go a different zone or not. But it's just like 3 or 4
Yeah.
quests in. When you go to the Waking Shore, you do the very first like 3 little quests where you kill the proto drakes, and then once you talk to, um, what's his name? I can't think of his name. The Black Dragonflight leader guy.
Rathion.
Yes, Raffion. Once you talk to him, then they give you a quick quest to choose a zone to level in. And you can
Oh,
choose
okay, cool.
you can choose the regular zone, like, and follow the same path. You can go to anyone. Um, Also, you can choose one of the other zones and then just go ahead and do the Waking Shore anyway. It doesn't really matter because the quests will be there regardless. It's just kind of that quest is really just there more to kind of lead you into the other zones if you want and let you know that that's an option. Again, they may change it. They may add something more closer to Threads of Fate where you get the bonus objectives. I would love to see it because right now it's not going to be any faster to level by doing that. It's just a different path essentially.
Yeah.
All right, you want to go through the affixes that we have for this week?
Yes. So this week we have Fortified, Raging, Explosive, and Shrouded. Fortified Raging combos can be kind of crazy, eh?
It can be a little difficult just at the very end. It's not too bad. I don't really mind raging as a tank.
And
And
what's explosive? Is that the one with the orbs that you try to kill?
yes, yep, that
That
is
was easy.
mine. Where I'm the explosive master that I took from Tech. See, hot Tech. I mentioned you. You're welcome. Tech was Techno would do our explosives back in the day, and was always phenomenal at them. But I think I've taken the crown now because I've just gotten a lot better than I was at getting them in the past. But no, I think it's a good push week in my opinion.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Fortified Raging and Explosive is really a good combination. Um, Explosive isn't the best affix, but it's not bad. And Raging really doesn't affect the DPS. It's more of just a tank mechanic with a little bit of healing mechanic, because you kind of gotta just pay attention to it when the mobs start to die. But it's not too
Can
bad.
you purge off the enrage?
Um, you can't purge it, but if you like I can't on my demon hunter, but
Like I can like shiv it,
trank
right?
shot, yes, yeah, trank shot, the rogue ability, and soothe for the druids will take that enrage effect off.
Oh, okay.
The only issue is like it's hard to really make it be useful unless because most of the time once the mobs are down to 30% health, they're gonna die pretty quickly. So you might be able to get one or two off. Typically, it's best if there is a large health mob in the group. Save it for that one because that's the one that's going to last the longest, under 30%.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like, I know I typically when I was playing on my druid, I would be trying to soothe stuff, and I'd be able to get one off, and then by the time the cooldown was over, all the others were dead anyway. So
Yeah.
it doesn't do too much, but it is helpful. And then what about the next part there?
Got a camp-wide PvP catch-up gear.
So have you read up on that at all? You heard about
I
that
have
one yet?
not. I've never heard this
Okay,
yet.
so basically what this is in retail.
Oh, okay, I know what it is then.
So you know how we have, they've had the anima. You can transfer anima over. You can buy. I guess a better example is how you can buy Mythic Plus gear at like 220 or something, or the 200, and you send the token over to your alts from your main. If you have a bunch of Valor, I think
Yeah.
it's with Valor for that. If you have a bunch of Valor, you can spend your Valor and send Mythic Plus gear, like level 220, over to your alts. They added that in for the PvP vendor. Um,
Hmm.
that should have gone into effect yesterday or the day before. I just think it's Tuesday with reset. Um,
Tuesday, yeah.
Now it gives level 275 unranked PvP gear. And you have to have it's purchased with conquest, and you have to have the character that you're purchasing on has to have a 1400 or higher rating on any PvP bracket.
Oh, that's super easy.
Yeah, but yeah, it's buying on account. It's just a token, so you're not like buying a specific piece of gear. It doesn't tell you. You don't know what it's going to turn
Yeah.
into. It's just a
Yeah.
little chest, and then you send it to your alt. Your alt opens it up, and you get a random piece of PvP gear, item level 275. So that's nice for them to put in there. Um, Again, late in the season, we've only got about another couple months before, probably less than that, probably about 6 weeks left of the season. So then we'll have the in between. All right, so
Next, we got Winds of Wisdom. The buff is now live, and if
yes,
you
it
don't know what
is.
that is, it's a 50% increase experience gain on leveling from 1 to 50, right?
Well, 10 to
Or
50, as we
1.
found out.
Oh, oh yeah,
And
10, yeah,
I
10
believe
to
it is to
50.
60. I believe it's 10 to 60. It
10 to
should,
60,
yeah,
okay.
it should cover the Shadowland stuff as well. But yeah, now the buff, I don't think it is in effect for level 1 to 10. I know when we were leveling up yesterday, it didn't show up until for Techno. It didn't show up for him until he was level 10. We both started at level 10, so I don't know, but I think it might be that it starts at level 10. I don't know why it would wait till level 10, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
All right, and then so the other bit of news is we did get the information from Wildhead as data mined the Thundering Affix, which is supposedly going to be the season 1 seasonal affix. So that'll go into effect when you're doing a plus 10 or higher. It's yeah, it's kind of no one really knows exactly what it does. All we have is what the tooltip says, which the tooltip says that while in combat, players are periodically caught in Razageth's unending storm. As the storm passes, players discharge excess energy that can damage and stun allies. So they were saying that it kind of compares to Prideful and uh, Quaking, like those two combined. I don't know how it compares to Prideful. I don't understand that comparison, honestly. I don't see anything in there that makes me think of Prideful, but it doesn't really. The tooltip doesn't say what the buff is or anything along those lines. It just says that while you're in combat, you're caught in a storm, and then you can discharge enemy that will or energy that's going to damage and stun allies. So that's where the quaking part comes in. You might end up stunning allies. I'm guessing you'll have to spread out, kind of like you do during quaking.
Yeah.
Um, but other than that, I don't know, what else it does. This is just a data mine tooltip. That's about it.
Right,
What are
okay.
your thoughts on that? Like, I mean, I know it's not a lot of information, obviously, but
I
what
mean,
what do you think about
this
having something similar to quaking in there all the time?
that sounds a little annoying, to be honest.
Yes, I agree.
Um,
I don't think quaking is anybody's favorite affix. It's not the worst, but I don't think it's anybody's favorite.
I think the fact that you can stun your allies is kind of, kind of sucks as well.
Yeah, so
So
like
running like melee heavy, you're gonna be punished.
right, and that's kind of where like I like the affixes where you're fighting something and it gives you mechanics to fight against, not just random mechanics that are just going to punish you the whole time. Like I don't like that. I want to fight something where okay, you have a couple mechanics, but you're just going to gain a big buff. Uh,
Yeah,
this seems like it's something that if you're in combat, it's going to be happening. Again, I don't know what the positive side is because it hasn't said anything. We don't know if there's any kind of a buff or anything like that that we're gonna get. All we know is that it says you're gonna do damage and stun allies.
yeah.
So that's a little weird. Um, but moving on, and I know you've got some thoughts on this. Uh, go ahead and take that next one.
Season 1 Mythic Plus mount. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So many things wrong with it. We'll start off by saying it doesn't fly.
Yep.
In the expansion called Dragon Flight, where everyone else is getting flying mount, you're getting a land mount. And the look of it is not so bad for a land mount,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it runs terrible.
Yes.
The
It's
animation for its running is just it's just awful. It's awful.
so to describe the way that it runs, like most four-legged mounts, they move like, one foot like that, going like that. This thing just goes both paws at the same time, back paws come forward. It looks really weird. It looks really derpy. Um, and by the way, the mount is called the Hailstorm Armoredin. Um, art wise, like it looks fine. It looks okay.
Yeah,
I don't mind how it graphically looks. The running animation is really derpy. It looks really weird. I really hope they change that a little bit. But no, the main point I think that people are really, really mad about is kind of like you said. For PvP, you get a customization for dragon riding mounts that
yeah,
looks really awesome. For raiding, you get for completing the raid, killing it on probably heroic. I guess I think is what it is. Maybe myth. I'm not sure.
probably yeah.
They might have different skins for each one, but when you kill it, when you clear the boss gear AOTC, you get a mount or not a mount, but a customization skin for for your dragon ridings that makes your dragon look just like Razageth. So both of those give you rewards that essentially give you a different looking mount that you can fly and use with dragon riding. But then Mythic
Yeah,
Plus is just getting a ground mount. It can't fly at all. It's just a ground mount. It has nothing to do with dragon riding. Um, it kind of feels weird. I think so. From a player perspective, the way that most people are looking at it is PvP and raiders are PvPers and raiders are getting this amazing looking customization for dragon riding, and we're just getting a ground mount for Mythic Plus, which just seems weird. Um,
yeah,
I think Blizzard is probably in their mind. They are probably thinking that they're doing us a favor because they're going, oh well, PvPers and raiders don't get actual mounts; they just get ways to ride a different looking dragon riding, which at the end of the day, what are mounts if not just skins? Like they're all mounts. They all do the same thing. They all look
yeah,
different. So essentially you're getting a new mount. But I think the way that Blizzard is looking at it and gonna try to justify it is that oh well they're not even getting mounts. They're just getting skins for their current mounts that they already have. So you're actually getting an actual mount that they
yeah,
won't get. Okay, but again, it's a ground mount and it's dragon riding, and it doesn't feel like we're getting something special. It feels like we're getting short ended there. Like they're giving PvPers and raiders cool stuff, and like oh yeah, well sorry we already blew all of our Christmas money. Here's the leftover present for you. you know.
yeah.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are not happy about it. I haven't seen anything yet as to if Blizzard's gonna change it. I know with the Season 4 mount for Mythic Plus Keystone Master, originally the coloring was really terrible, really similar to, I think, the Season 2 mount. I think it was really similar to the Season 2 mount, and everyone complained, and Blizzard said, all right, we'll recolor it.
Yeah.
This mount doesn't need a recolor; it needs a completely different thing. Um,
Oh,
so
entirely. Yeah.
I don't know if they'll do that. I think we're gonna be stuck with this mount. I've heard a couple people question that maybe it's a placeholder, but I don't think that's the case. I don't see any reason why they would put a placeholder in there when they've already, released what the mounts are going to be for PvP and raiding. I don't know why they would put a placeholder and try to keep Mythic Plus a secret.
Yeah.
Um, but no, it kind of feels like we're getting the short end of the stick there, which also brings us to the next point there. Um, so our last bit of news here is that they have Wowhead has data mine that the Mythic Plus currently, which again we haven't seen any Mythic Plus testing. Hopefully we'll start that here in a couple weeks. But what they are seeing right now from the data mining appears to be that Mythic Plus loot is going to scale all the way up to a plus 18. Now, while that at first sounds like, oh, okay, cool, we'll get our gear at 15, and then doing a 16 or a 17 or 18 will give us even better gear. No, that's not the case. Um, so
Yeah.
they're just increasing the keystone requirement to get the same level of type of gear that we get now at a 15. So again, like what the equivalent of what we would have gotten at a 15 last in Shadowlands, we'll have to do an 18 to get that same level of gear.
Now, do you think that the Keystone Master will require 18s now then?
I would not be surprised if it does. Now,
Yeah.
what I am hoping for is that they're doing excuse me, what I'm hoping for is that the data mining information is a little bit off, maybe, and that they're actually doing what everyone wants them to do. Because right now, the biggest issue for people who just do Mythic Plus is that if you raid, you can get way better gear than you can if you do Mythic Plus. No matter what you do in Mythic Plus, there are pieces of gear, lots of pieces of gear that are anywhere from 6 to 12 item levels higher than in raid than anything you can get in Mythic Plus. And
Yeah.
I this has been something I've said a lot, and I've said it a lot, and I know you all kind of know my opinion on this. It feels like Blizzard views Mythic Plus as a stepping stone and just a way to gear for raid. They don't view it as something like how you and I are. We don't like, especially through Shadowlands. Yeah, we raided the very first season, but we haven't really touched raid since then. We just don't
Yeah.
have time to raid. We don't want to raid necessarily, but we love doing Mythic Plus. And it's frustrating that you can't get the end game gear by doing anything other than raiding. Um, and I would be completely fine if they said, okay, you have to complete a plus 20, and then you can get the same level as the high end raiding gear. Because that's fine to me. I have no problem with that. They want to increase the difficulty. That's what we thought they were going to do. And instead, they're just increasing the difficulty, but not increasing the item level for the gear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is kind of, again, it kind of like with the mount. It feels like they're just kind of like, oh yeah, Mythic Plus. It feels like they view Mythic Plus as the redheaded stepchild. And I know that they probably aren't viewing it that way. They probably, in their minds, they're just viewing it as Mythic Plus is not an end-game content. It is a pre-raid, gear up for raid content. That's what they're probably viewing it as.
Yeah.
But I think a large portion of the community looks at Mythic Plus as this is the end game content. Just it's just another facet of it. Like you have your PvP, you have your Mythic Plus, and you have your raid. Those are three separate things of end game content. And in
Yeah.
my opinion, I don't. You could speak more to the PvP rewards. I don't know what PvP rewards cap out as. Um,
Well, actually, in next expansion, there's gonna be no upgrading for PvP gear. Once you get it, it's gonna be the highest item level it can be.
Interesting. Um,
So I don't know what exactly that'll mean. So I
Interesting.
know that for working with PvE, it won't matter very much because, like for example, on the beta, the PvP gear is 366, but in PvP it's 411.
Yeah,
So you don't
and
have to
see,
you
I
don't have to
like
worry
that.
about people. Yeah, you don't have to worry about people getting like PvP gear and be like, wow, there's my rating gear. Like it's not gonna be that way.
Yeah. Well, and so that's the thing. That's kind of what my point was. Was I know right now it's like 366 is what the gear works as in PVE, and it's like 411, I think, for PvP. Um,
Yes.
I think that should be because I know the raid, the final bosses in the raid on Mythic level are going to give 421. I think that Mythic Plus and PvP should both have paths to where your gear can be 421. Um, Now in PvP, it sounds like with the way they're doing it, your gear is going to get maxed out anyway. So
Yeah.
item level, it'll be more about skill level, which is to me, I think that's a good thing. I think it should be
I
about
think so
skill
too.
level.
Yeah.
Um, it does mean that I can never go and grab all 421 gear and be able to actually win PvP uh, against somebody who only has 380 gear because that won't happen. Now, I think in World PvP, I don't think it's going to work like that in World PvP. It's still going to probably be your PvE gear, right?
For what?
Like in World PvP. So like
You so
if you're just out in the open world and you've got PvP gear on, like you just have war mode on, you come across a member of the opposite faction. I don't know that that gear is suddenly going to scale to
well,
411,
it
right?
does if you're in PvP mode, it automatically scales.
Okay, so if you have war mode on, then it will.
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting. Huh. That is interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how they were gonna do that. That makes sense though. Um, that kind of is a nice bonus for war mode. Also, that kind of makes it a little
Yep.
easier because if it counts against when you're fighting just NPC mobs, doing world quests and whatever, and it scales up to that, that'll make that a lot easier right off the bat if you have war mode on then.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. That could actually help them bring some people back into having war mode on more often. So I think that's a
Yep.
plus for PvPers. I and I know this isn't on our news topic, but I will say, and I wish that they would give some better rewards for having war mode on. I personally still probably not going to do it because I don't PvP. But I think one of the things that a lot of people have had issues with the game is world PvP just isn't doesn't happen as often as they would like it. Um, so having incentives to get people to turn war mode on more often would be excellent, and I think it's something they need to do. Uh,
Yeah.
I think the current incentives aren't very good. The 10% XP, well, once you're max level, you don't get that, and then the increase in gold and reputation. I think reputation increases a little bit. I'm not sure. That's just not worth it. I mean, it's to me, it's not very much of an increase. I think it's like a 10% increase at best. I think honestly they should up that, like especially reputation increases. I think reputation increases they could, if war mode is on, they should have that be like a 40% up increase in reputation. Excuse me, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Just
Like get more gold from quests or
yeah, and just something. You need something to make it worth its while because right now if you're on a faction on a server where your faction is only 10-20% of the population on that server, you're not turning war mode on
yeah.
unless you have a really good incentive to have it, or unless you just are perfectly fine with getting killed over and over again. But that typically isn't how it works. Typically, if it's a and there's lots of servers out there where the factions are very imbalanced, typically imbalanced towards the horde where they have way more and the alliance has way less. Um, there are some servers where it's the opposite, but again, like if
I
if you're in that small amount, you don't turn your war mode on really. But I would love to see like PvPers and Mythic Plus and Raid all have the same end game gear and have their own paths to get to it. And I totally have no issue if they want to slow down the gear for Mythic Plus because of that, to make it more in line with rating or whatever. I think the big problem and that Blizzard has with doing anything like that is essentially making the fact that Mythic Plus can be used to gear towards raid. Like I get that raiders
Yeah.
obviously are going to use Mythic Plus to gear towards raid. However, I don't like how they have it set up, and I don't think we should be penalized because of that. And it feels like that's what happens, that we get penalized and can't ever get as good of gear as we should be able to get. Um, Even if, you know what, like let's say they have the 15, 16, 17, 18, and then 19 and 20 tier. And let's say 15 gives the 4-8. So just for some reference here. Mythic, the bottom or the max level mythic gear, I think is like 424, I believe, or 427. I'm not 100% sure on that. So the final few bosses in raid are going to give like 424 or 427 item level, whereas the highest item level you can get from doing Mythic Plus is 418. So you've got a full almost 10 item levels higher you can get from raid.
Yeah, it
So
depends on the boss. I'm gonna look at the Mythic right now, and it's dropping 415. Then
yep,
later it drops 421. And the
yeah.
last two bosses drop 424.
Yes, so the first four, I believe, are the 415, and then there's three that give, or three or two that give 421, and then the last two give the 424. I believe
Yeah.
also those last couple of bosses have a like each boss has one item that is a higher item level than its tier, and I think the last two bosses have stuff that are like 427 or 420, 430 or something like that.
Oh,
But no,
what?
maybe 430 for like
In what though?
the last two bosses. I'm not sure what exactly the loot
It's
was.
it's 424.
Well, no, I'm saying they have like one piece of loot that drops from each
Oh,
boss that is a higher item level
this
than
one's
the rest of them.
430.
Okay.
And then the last boss is just 424. The second last boss dropped 430 rank.
Okay. So yeah, there probably be something else they probably haven't decided on it yet.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're keeping it secret. There's also actually no, I know what it is. Those are not the last bosses. The very last boss. Well, actually, I don't know. They might have them in the dungeon. I don't know if they have the last boss in the dungeon journal or not. I know they said they're not doing any testing on the very last boss, so they're going to be going in blind. Um,
Yeah.
so that I don't know. They may not have that in the dungeon journal. I don't have it pulled up on me right now. Um, but no, I think what they should do to make it kind of more on par would be have it go to a level 20, be your maximum reward, and then at level 20 you get that same as that, you get 424 gear on your weekly vault if you complete a 20 or higher. And if they are concerned about that being used too much to get good gear for raid, okay, cap out your Mythic Plus weekly vault loot at a 15 for the first 3-4 weeks, and then after 4 weeks, cool. Then we can start getting the 424 gear.
Yeah.
I feel like at the end of the season, when the season ends, if you have been doing Mythic Plus at a high level, you should be able to be just as geared as people who have been doing Mythic Raid.
Yeah.
And again, with PvP, I would feel the same way. Again, with the new system, I don't know that it matters because you're all going to have the same item level anyway. But if they were allowing item level changes by the end of the season, you should be able to be geared out in full 424 gear,
Yeah.
just like Raiders. I don't like how they always look at Mythic Plus and PvPers as less than Raiders. I think
Yeah.
that's the issue I've always had for the last few years. Is it feels like they look down on anybody that's not raiding, and they want to make rating is the ultimate pinnacle and achievement. It's just not true though. Like
Yeah.
there people don't have time to do rating every week. They may want to, but they don't have time. But Mythic Plus, listen, I'll sit here all day long and say that the guys that are doing Mythic Plus 30s, that takes way more skill than clearing Mythic Raid. Like it just does.
Yeah.
Timing the highest, the great push. They just had the great push a couple weeks ago. I think they did like 33s, 34s. I'm not exactly sure how high they got, but like that takes more talent and skill because if a single person screws up at all, you're not timing the key. If you have a single
Yep.
death, you're not timing the key. And even in Mythic Raid, outside of the first couple of weeks when you have the race to world first, you have a death, you can recover. If you make a mistake, you can recover. It's not as punishing. Um, so yeah, I feel like the Raiders have always gotten more love from Blizzard than the rest of the player base, which is funny because I mean they're showing more love to that, but there's only like 1%, maybe 2% of players that are actually going to clear Mythic Raid anyway.
Yeah.
Um, but no, so moving on. I know we went a little long on that, but moving on. The next part here is Wowhead released an article on things to do before Dragonflight. And all this really is just a list of different things that are going away or are going to become much more difficult to get whenever pre-patch or the season launches. So the pre-patch, we don't know yet when the pre-patch is going to be.
I
Um,
think people were saying end of October.
yeah, I mean it's possible.
Seems
it's,
a little soon, but I
it really
think that's the
does.
idea.
Yeah, no, I think pre-patch is supposed to be 3 to 4 weeks before launch, which
Yeah.
would place it late October, early November. Um,
So relatively pretty
so
soon here.
so with the pre-patch, season 4 ends for PvP. Um, so the elite PvP sets you can no longer obtain those after the season 4 is over. Obviously,
Yeah.
uh, the the achievement that comes along with that, you can't get that as well. The Gladiator Mountain title, those are going away after season 4, so you have until pre-patch to get those. Mythic Plus, same thing. You have until the pre-patch to get your Keystone Master and get your mount and title for that. The Teleport and Keystone Hero achievements, which are the ones for completing plus 20s. Those achievements are going away on the pre-patch. Um, the teleports, they do make a note. The Blizzard says the teleports are going away with pre-patch. However, historically, uh, those have been available until launch, so that you could, since because they still let you do Mythic Plus dungeons during the pre-patch. You just don't get
Yeah.
achievements and stuff for it. So they're thinking that the actual teleports will probably still um, work and be there. And then let's see. So with the actual launch of Dragonflight, the faded raids are going away. Obviously, it makes sense. So you will not be able to get the Jigglesworth Senior mount, which is the slime cat. So there are
Ah,
some
cool deal.
groups. There are some groups. I know Iconic. They're a guild that's on, I believe, Illidan server. I'm not sure what server they're on. I want to say Illidan. I could be wrong though. But I know the guild Iconic. They're doing some friendship runs where they're carrying people and helping them get their mount and the title for the faded raids. Per, oh, what's it called? I think it's Perky Pugs. I want to say. Um, their Discord channel, look them up. They usually do a lot of friendship runs that'll help get people mounts. Doesn't cost any gold. They're just you sign up for it, you show up, and then they help you do the run. Um, but those are all going away. The titles for the heroic and mythic fates of the Shadowland raids, those are going away. The teleports are going away. Um, if you don't get the reward, or at least the reward for the teleports are going away. I think if you get it, you'll probably still have it. Not sure. The Veil Strider title, Back from the Beyond, that one is going to be going away. That's the Shadowlands meta achievement, which gives you the Veil Strider title along with. I don't think it gives a mount actually. It just gives you that. They do have a guide called Back from Beyond Veil Strider Guide. So if you want to know, I might actually look at that later. If you want to know what achievements you need to get that, it's all listed there. The heroic jailer mount is let's see.
It'd probably go from a guaranteed drop to a 1%.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at now. It is That's the ahead of the curve. Um, let's see. So you can still get the mount. I'm not sure if this is going away. I'm trying to see here. There are groups, again, like Perky Pugs and stuff that will be helping you get those mounts. Again, look into those if you're interested on their Discord server. Trying to see. It looks like they're just removing that mount, but my guess is it is going to become like a 1% drop.
Yeah.
That's typically how those work. Um, so yeah, it's probably still going to be there. It's just going to be a little more difficult. Although that's the
Yeah.
one that mount is for ahead of the curve. So actually, that mount may not be achievable. You may not be able to get that mount because it is specifically for ahead of the curve. It's not just for killing the jailer. Um, the mythic mount probably will become very low chance to get. The other thing, the Wandering Ancient, um, most likely you have most likely everyone that is going to get this has already gotten this. However, the Wandering Ancient mount is a mount that you get only if you have logged in during Shadowlands. That's whenever you log in for the first time. So if you haven't gotten Shadowlands and you want the mount, buy Shadowlands and log in, and you'll get the mount. But that will not be available once launch happens for Dragonflight. Although it's not been confirmed by Blizzard, but that's what they're guessing is that it's going to go away. Then the We Are All Made of Stars achievements, which are, I believe, just for the Fated ones for this season. Um, they're heroic and mythic versions of that achievement. Those are going to be going away at the launch. Now Wowhead recommends completing it before the pre-patch because uh, those bosses will be a lot harder once the pre-patch goes because it'll be fated every week.
Yeah.
So they recommend doing it before pre-patch when it's not on a fated week. Now, here are the ones that are still obtainable but harder to complete. Um, the Mythic Sylvanas mount, the Vengeance Reigns, that was currently 100% drop rate. That is going to drop down to a 1% roughly drop rate, and most likely will only drop one per kill. So if
Yeah.
you're in a group with 20 people, only one person is going to be allowed to get it. That's what's happened with most of the other ones. That's probably what's happened there. Same thing with the Mythic Jailer mount, Fractal Cipher of the Zeroth Overseer. Again, it's currently 100% chance, going to drop to about a 1% chance. And then the Shadowland campaigns, if you haven't done those, you can knock those out now. It's not so much about getting the campaigns; those are probably still going to be available. But the getting the different rewards and stuff for them, you want to try to knock as much of that out now. They should still be available. Some of them might go away, but most of the rewards are probably still going to be available. But it might be good time to go and get those knocked out. The Glory of the Shadowland heroic, or Glory of the Shadowlands hero, Glory of Natharator, all the glory of the raid and the dungeon achievements. You want to try to knock those out now because those will become a lot harder because a lot of those require more than one person, and once Dragonflight comes out, it's going to be a lot harder to find people to do those with you. If you have some friends that will help you, not so bad. Again, it's something that you can still do, but it'll just be harder.
Yeah.
Dungeon achievements, same thing. They're going to be a little bit harder to do just because there'll be less people doing them. Raid content, same thing. Mage Tower. So yeah, basically they're recommending go ahead and try to do the Mage Tower now if you're wanting that stuff because it's still going to be there, but they're not sure how much harder or easier it will be with when Dragonflight comes out. I think it'll probably I think it'll be about the same.
Scaled.
What?
All the gear is scaled for Mage Tower, so it should be the same.
Well, they're talking about the talent system and everything, like the changes with that. Because I personally think it should be easier. Because
I would think so.
right now, when you do Mage Tower, you don't get any of your legendary abilities. You don't get do you get your tier set bonus?
No.
Yeah, so you don't get a lot of things that you're gonna have with the new talent system. But that's kind of why they're saying they're not sure how it's all gonna work. My hope would be that they would just, whatever talents you have selected, you have those abilities available in there.
Yeah.
That's probably how it's going to work. But yes, those are all the things. Leveling, honestly, the pre-patch is a great, or the pre-patch, and then the current buff. No better time to level up alts, get them caught up. So you have a 50% buff from the Winds of Wisdom. This week is Dark Moon Fair. Go do the Dark Moon Fair quest, buy the stuff off Auction House, whatever you got to do. Ride the roller coaster. I don't care. Get your 10% buff from that. Get your 50% buff from Winds of Wisdom. Get your 10% buff from the flat, or for the experience potions. If you have any of the insignias left over from BFA, go buy yourself the potions. And then War Mode, get your 10 or 15% if you're Alliance. Level up your alts. You will never be able to level up faster until the end of Dragonflight. um,
Yeah.
Allied race heritage armor, they recommend working on those during this time because it's easy to quickly lock or level up. Let's see. It's about it. I think the rest of the stuff they're talking about, some classic stuff, which I'm not really concerned too much about that. All right, so those are the things to do. If you want to go check it out, look at the Wowhead website. Look up just what to do before Dragonflight. It'll pop up on nearly any Google search. Great info in there. They've got guides for a lot of the stuff. Check it out. So now, without any further ado,
Let's get into the tier
gonna
sets.
turn this over to you, Bioshock. Um, Bioshock has done a lot of testing on the tier sets, looked through all this, put together kind of our own little tier set list. So let me switch our screen over and get this started.
I'm just gonna go through it pretty quick to keep it short and sweet. Sweet and short. So you got Frost Death Knight. This set bonus looks pretty good, and it pairs very well with the buff that just came this last build. So I put him as A. Possibly could be S, to be honest. Not quite sure. Got Holy Death Knight. Definitely a really strong tier set. Pop in a wound, a Fester wound gives you 10% damage and speed for your pet, like always. And your pet has a chance to increase your damage by in haste to 10%, and it's just strong overall. That's S tier. Next we have Havoc, and theirs was recently buffed, right? We put them in B. I haven't been able to test this Havoc set yet, but it could be a B or A, but we put it in B for now. Balance Druid is an S tier. Its stat bonus is just really good. 2 set and 4 set. The Starfall and Sorcerers decrease damage against Wrath or starting fire by 50%, stack up to 3 times. And that's really easy to stack up because you have a lot of astral power. When you enter Eclipse, your next Star Surge or Starfall will cost no astral power and deal 50% increased damage. And you go into an Eclipse so often that that's just gonna make strong Star Surges, strong Starfalls. So that's an S tier. Feral, probably the worst tier set of any class. Yeah, so Feral's F tier. It's just awful. Devastation 2 set's kind of crappy. I mean, it's not the worst. It's not very good. It's just increased critical strike chance of your power abilities. Then it could also increase your crit chance by 5% for 6 seconds when it procs. It's just kind of meh. Their 4 set's pretty good though, I think. With the Empower spells having a 25% chance to grant you 6 seconds of Fury of the Aspects, which is the Lust, and it doesn't give you Exhausted, Sated, whatever. We put that in S tier. It's C tier, my bad. Sorry, confused. Next is Beast Mastery. Its tier set's alright. The kill command damage increase 10%. Has a 10% chance to reset the clone on Barb Shot. It's pretty good. Barb Shot has a 50% chance to make an extra Cobra Shot or multi-shot consume no focus. We put the BM in B tier for now. Just, it's good, but I think other classes have better. Yeah, so take this with a grain of salt. Like, this is just our list. We haven't been able to test absolutely everything. I got a lot of feedback. I went to a lot of other streams and videos to find their lists to help me kind of make mine. So I have some of my own thought into it, but I also have other people's opinions as well. Marksman, 2-set arcade shot, multi-shot, crit, increase your aim shot. Make sure aim shot casts 50% faster and bleed for 20% of the damage over 6 seconds. That's a good 2-set. Range auto attacks have a 10% chance to increase the critical strike chance next arcane shot or multi-shot by 100%. I think the 2 and the 4-set work really well together. And we put Marksman in A tier. Survival, 2-set, Mongoose Bite, Raptor Strike, Carve, Butchery, damage increased by 10%. 4-set, Mongoose Bite, Raptor Strike, Carve, Butchery has a 10% chance to make your next Mongoose Bite. Raptor Strike, Carve, Butchery costs no focus. It's just a little underwhelming. The 2-set's okay, but the 4-set is just kind of meh. We put Survival in C tier. Mage, Arcane. For each Arcane charge, Arcane Blast critical strike chance increased by 3%. Oh, increased by 5%. And Arcane Explosion increased by 3%. Now, it was per charge, but I'm seeing it blacked out now. So it's just straight up 5%. Oh, I see. For each charge. It's like, what, 20% crit chance on Arcane Blast and 12 or whatever on Arcane Explosion. That's pretty good. 4-set Arcane Blast, Arcane Explosion, critical strikes. At least one hit one target. The critical strike chance next Arcane Barrage increased by 10%, stacking up to 4 times. So that's just good damage. Arcane Barrage is pretty hard. We put Arcane in A tier. Alright, we got Fire. Pyroblast and Flame Strike cast with Hot Streak deal 10% increased damage. And Fire Blast, Phoenix Flames, and Fireball deal 10% increased damage, and the chance of critical strike increased by 10%. Now I think if you are the correct build, your Fire Blast and Phoenix Flame crit always, no matter what. So the 4-set for that is kind of meh. But the Fireball critical strike chance and damage is nice. The 2-set's still really good for Pyroblast. But yeah, I'm pretty sure the spec for Fire Mages really get the guaranteed crits on Fire Blast and Phoenix Flames makes the 4-set just okay. Let's we put Fire in B tier. Frost Mage 2-set, Ice Lance and Frozen Orb damage increased by 10%. That's pretty good. Consuming Fingers of Frost increases Blizzard by 25% and Frostable damage by 50% for 6 seconds. So you're gonna have Fingers of Frost up. You're gonna have that buff up almost all the time when you're fighting. I put Frost in B tier, but it could be argued that it's A tier. I haven't really tested that too much. Next is Windwalker Monk. They're 2-set. Fist of Fury increases damage dealt by your next 2 Rising Sun kicks or Spinning Crane kicks by 30%. That's pretty strong. It's a good buff. Fist of Fury now enhances your next 3 Rising Sun kicks or Spinning Crane kicks, and enhanced kicks increase your versatility during your next Fist of Fury by 5%, stacked up to 3 times. So like 15% increased damage to your Fist of Fury. It's pretty good. It's a good set. We put Windwalker in A tier. Next is Retribution Paladin. There are 2 sets: Blade of Justice and Judgment grant Crusader Strength, increasing the damage to next Crusader Strike or Consecration by 100%, stacking up to 2 times. That's I think that's really strong. Gives you single target damage and AoE damage depending on what you want to do. 4-set, when you consume Crusader Strength, your 2-set, the damage to your next Blade of Justice is increased by 50% for each second Crusader Strike consumed. Crusader Strength consumed. So it could be 100% if you're just if you use like a 2 stacks of the 2 set. Yeah, so we put Ret in A tier. Shadow Priest. Mind Blast damage increases next Devouring Plague or Mind Seer by 20%, so I hit 3 times. It's pretty good. I haven't tested Shadow Priest too much since the nerfs. 4 set Devouring Plague and Mind Seer increase your haste by 5% for 8 seconds. Which is pretty good because you get Devouring Plague up quite often. I haven't really tested much Mind Seer. It's it might be good. It just feels a little clunky because you don't ever get Devouring Plagues. You use all your insanity on Mind Seer. We put Shadow in B. Next is Assassination Rogue. 2 set Envenom also increase your weapon poison damage by 10%. That's pretty good. When your weapon poisons deal direct damage, you have a 50% chance to gain Septic Wounds, increasing all bleed damage down by 2% for 8 seconds, second up to 5 times. And you're going to be proccing Septic Wounds a lot because your poison proc is pretty high. So that's pretty good. We put Assassination in A tier. Outlaw. Dispatch increases the damage of your next sinister strike or ambush with 20% per combo point spent. And if you're like me and you run double deeper stratagem, you have 7 max talent points. You're getting 140% increased damage in your next sinister strike or ambush. Pretty strong. 4 set. Half cost. Use the pistol shot granted by sinister strike. Increase the damage of your next dispatch by 50%. I'm hitting like close to 100k crits with my dispatch in in heroic right now. And we put Outlaw in S tier. Subtlety. Eviscerate and Black Powder increase the damage and critical strike chance of your next Backstab, Shadow Strike, or Shuriken Storm by 2% per combo point spent. Backstab, Shadow Strike, and Shuriken Storm critical strike chance increases the damage of your next Eviscerate or Rupture by 15%, or your next Black Powder by 8%. They kind of work pretty nice together. I wouldn't say that the best tier set, but it's definitely not bad. We put Subtlety in B tier. Elemental Shaman. Lightning Bolt, Chain Lightning, Lava Burst increase the damage of your next Elemental Blast or Shock or Earthquake by 3% second to 10 times. I don't know. You don't want to sit on like all that Maelstrom, get 10 stacks, you know? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and the 4 set casting Earthshock Earthquake increase your mastery by 10%. Mastery's nice, but it's like the 2 set's kind of clunky. We put Elemental in C tier. Enhancement. 2 sets. Storm Strike increases the damage of Lava Lash by 10% and causes you to generate 1 stack of Maelstrom weapon. Lava Lash, it's kind of nice. The Maelstrom proc is handy, I guess. Only 1 stack, but it's handy. Their 4 set consuming Maelstrom weapon stacks reduce the cooldown of Storm Strike, Lava Lash, Crash Lightning, Flame Shock, or Frost Shock by 0.5% or 0.5 seconds per stack chosen randomly. The fact that it's chosen randomly makes it awful. We put enhancement in D tier. Alright, Warlock is kind of a tough one for us because we don't play Warlock. So we did our best, so we'll see. Affliction 2 set. When Agony grants a soul shard, you have a chance to gain Cruel, Inspiration, increase your haste by 12% for 6 seconds. Haste is nice, that's pretty good. Cruel Inspirations also grants 2 charges of Cruel Epiphany, up to 5 charges. Each charge of Cruel Epiphany increases the damage next Malefic Rupture or Seeded Corruption by 40%. Seeded Corruption, that'd be nice AoE in Mythic Plus. Or Malefic Rupture is pretty good as well. We put Affliction in B tier. Demonology. Demon Bolt and Fellstorm damage increased by 20%. That's just a nice rate of damage. Demon Bolt, 4-set. Demon Bolt has a chance to make the next hand go down instant and deal 50% increased damage. Also pretty good. But like I was saying, we don't play Warlocks. So this tier list for us could be a little off. I haven't really tested any Warlock. Yeah, we put Demonology in A tier. Destruction. Consuming Soul Shards has a chance to grant you Chaos Maelstrom, increasing your critical strike chance with 10% for 10 seconds. 4-set. During Chaos Maelstrom, your Chaos Bolt, Conflagrate, Incinerate, critical strikes explode on the target, deal 2 to 10% damage dealt to enemies within 8 yards, damage reduced beyond 5 targets. So, AoE sounds pretty good. Single target sounds pretty bad. Well, the 4-set anyways. So we put Destruction in B tier. And then on to the last class, the Warrior. We'll start with Arms. 2-set, Mortal Strike and Cleave damage and chance to critically strike increase by 10%. Oh, sorry. Damage and chance to critically strike increase by 10%. That sounds pretty good. I like that actually quite a bit. 4-set, Mortal Strike, Cleave, and Execute critical strikes, increase the damage and critical strike chance by 5% for 6 seconds. Just another 5% damage and crit. It's pretty good. So you have a total of 15% when you crit. I feel like that's pretty good. We put Arms in B tier for now. And the last one, Fury Warrior. 2-set, executes, chance to critically strike increase by 10%. Pretty good. You know, execute hits pretty hard. Sudden death, chance to reset cooldown of execute and make it usable at any target regardless of health is greatly increased. Yeah, I know you hate that wording, greatly increased, because they don't tell you exactly how much. But I'm hoping that it's a decent amount that puts execute into rotation more often. Is kind of what I'm thinking is going to happen, but I could be wrong. We put Fury in B tier. Like I said, take it with a grain of salt. I haven't tested everything. I'm kind of going off. I've tested Death Knight, Outlaw, Windwalker, Ret, and a couple other ones. But I took a lot of inspiration from some other people I've heard of theirs, and just kind of going off of what my experience in Mythic Plus is and how effective these would be in Mythic Plus. That's a good thing to point out is that we did this list for Mythic Plus, not raiding and not PvP.
They're gonna go into the group loot versus personal loot for raid.
Personally, I like it.
What you like? What
Group loot.
group loot? So
It just makes it so like if someone's not getting like for example when Shadowlands first came out and we were doing that raid on my Shadow Priest, I didn't get any gear for like 3 weeks, not a single piece.
right,
It was kind of awful. So
yes.
having group loot, it's like, well, this person hasn't gotten much gear recently. You can give it to him, or it's a bigger upgrade from this person. Or I personally like it more.
Well, so the thing is that would only be the case with master loot, which is not what they're bringing back yet. They're just bringing group loot. So group loot is the need before greed role.
Oh, okay.
So group loot really doesn't do anything other than the difference between personal loot and group loot is that the group loot, the rolling happens visually in front of you, but the other difference is that you can get people needing rolling need on stuff they don't actually need or stuff that they I think they should only be allowed to roll greed based off the item that they if they can't use it they're not allowed to roll any higher than greed. um but I think one of the bigger issues is there's no need for group loot. You could have group loot as an option, but I think the bigger issue is that they're. I think I guess we probably should have mentioned this first. For the first season of raiding, in the first raid, they are forcing group loot. You are not. There is no option to have personal loot on. It is only going to be group loot. This is for LFR, normal, heroic, mythic, all of it. You're not getting the option. Um,
Okay.
Now, one thing that they are doing, which is good, is that with all the loot, and this is really the only thing they needed to do. This was the biggest issue. Like this was the issue with you not getting gear. This is what would have helped this out. The loot, all loot is going to be tradable, regardless of whether or not it is an upgrade for you. So if I get something that is
Okay.
6 item levels higher when I've got, but I don't like the stats on it, I can still trade it. Whereas right now, if you get something that is 6 item levels higher, even if it's terrible stats and you don't want it, you can't trade it. You're forced to have it. Um, Now, let's say also in a situation where, let's say, like with season one, where you went for so long without getting any loot. Again, if I get something and it's a 3 item level upgrade, I'm like, you know what? It's a 3 item level upgrade. The stats aren't amazing. They're okay. I could use it. But hey, Bioshock over here, it's a 30-point item level upgrade and he hasn't gotten anything. I could now give that to you.
Yeah.
And you can still do that with group loot. Um, but the issue between the main difference and the main issue I have between group loot and personal loot is that with group loot, what they are doing is even if nobody in the group can use the item, it still has a chance to drop. So let's,
Yeah.
for example, warglaives for demon hunters or bows or guns for hunters. Let's say you have no hunters in your raid group. Bows and hunters can still drop with group loot. With personal loot, it can't.
Yeah.
So potentially, you're running group loot now. You're forced into it. You have no hunters in your group, and a bow drops. Well, that just means that there's one less piece of loot that you're getting as a group altogether for that raid,
Right.
because
Yeah.
nobody can use it. So that's just going to get sold, disenchanted, whatever. Whereas, with personal loot, everything in there somebody can use, unless it's just not an item level upgrade for anybody. That's
Right.
the only way that nobody's going to use it. But you can trade it around, move it around. If you get a bow and there's no hunters, you can't trade that into anybody. You can't do anything with it. It's wasted loot. People are calling them dead drops essentially, because it's dead loot. Um,
Right.
I think that's one
Um,
issue that I have with it.
we're getting a little long here, so
Yeah, we'll be finishing up here in just a few minutes. Um, but no, I
I say
think I
we
think
go on.
for my preference would be that I'm perfectly fine with them bringing group loot back because it has some advantages a little bit. I guess. I guess I don't see the need for group loot since they removed the item level restriction for trading, because that was the biggest complaint people had, was that they would constantly get loot that they want to funnel to a friend or to somebody who it's an upgrade for, that's a big upgrade for, that they don't need it. But if it's any kind of an upgrade, you weren't allowed to trade it, and that was the biggest issue. They got rid of that. So bringing in personal loot is or bringing in group loot was just unnecessary because they already fixed the issue with personal loot. Um,
Yeah.
and group loot just means you're going to have extra items that'll drop that nobody can use. It's also going to take longer in between rewards because with personal loot you get the item and then you just if you want to trade it to somebody you can trade it to them, but everyone gets their item right off the bat. Group loot, you have to wait for everyone to select the option, you have to roll on every single piece of gear, and that to me is not enjoyable because
Yeah.
whenever you kill a boss and there's 4 pieces of loot and you have to go through and pick and choose on each one and you have to wait for everybody, it just gets a little annoying. I think it slows down the process of raiding. um, I think if they want to bring in master loot, I don't have a problem with that as an option. The biggest risk with master loot is getting ninja looters, but again, in pug groups, not from back when it was all optional. If you went to a pug group and the loot style was master loot, everyone ditched it. Like you just left the group and went and found a different group. You knew better than to do that in a pug group. But I think for guilds, having the option for master loot, guilds love that because guilds have all sorts of different methods of how they do stuff. Um,
Yeah.
and I think it gives them a lot more customization, a lot more ways to kind of reward people for contributing, stuff like that. So I think having master loot as an option is good, and have it, but they aren't bringing back master loot. They're just bringing back group loot. But again, I think my biggest issue is them forcing it on you in raid. I think it should be an optional thing. I don't understand why. There's just no reason ever to take options away. I feel like you should
Right.
always have options. So people
Yeah.
who want it can use it. People who don't want it don't have to use it. So, Bioshock, what was your week in WoW like this week?
Um, it was testing the tier sets, specifically on Rogue, and more specifically Outlaw. Um, I thought it was really good. I'm actually a little worried that they're gonna nerf Outlaw with how much it's pumping,
Right.
but we'll see when that time comes. Um, yeah, I just did a lot of dungeons, testing out tier set. I haven't really tested out Warrior or Ret, which is kind of the two classes I've been messing around with. But yeah, it's all. I haven't really got up to much this week. Just testing out tier.
Yep. And as far as myself, so we were gonna do a speed run last Friday, and then that kind of fell apart because of the glitches still with Demon Hunter. So I think then we just started running some dungeons and testing stuff out. I think we ran all of the different dungeons. I think we've
Yep.
done each of them at least once.
Yeah.
And they're pretty good. We're gonna cover some more info on those dungeons coming up in the next few podcasts. We'll see. Not sure which ones yet, but yeah, no, we'll start covering some of those a little bit. A couple of them I don't care for too much, but they're not bad. I don't think any of them are bad yet. I think just there's one that's really buggy. So that one has a few issues. Um, Leaves you stuck. You get stuck in combat, and you can't get out of combat unless you just go and die. So that gets really annoying. But no, other than that, I haven't actually had a chance to test out any of the tier sets like myself, um, which is kind of what I'm planning on doing probably tonight. Honestly, we'll see if
Yeah. I
Tech
wanted
gets
to
on in a
test
little
out
bit.
Ret Warrior.
Yeah, I want to test out the Demon Hunter tier set, see how it feels for tanking. And then last night, Techno, our buddy, he leveled up a mage with us, and I was doing a monk, and Bioshock was doing a rogue.
Yep.
I was Windwalker. What spec were you?
Outlaw.
Outlaw. And then Tech was doing Frost Mage. So we leveled up. He started at level 1. We started at level 10. Waited for him to catch up to us. And then we got to like level
40.
37, 30. Oh, we did hit 40. That's right. Yeah, because we
Yeah.
went to Orgrimmar. Yep. Yeah, we hit like level 40 uh, before we called it a night. But we'll probably do more of that tonight if he gets on tonight.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of our week in WoW. So coming up, it'll be tonight, Friday night on October 7th, because this will be releasing sometime later today, which is, for me, it's Friday morning, Thursday night, Friday morning. But this will come out sometime later today. So tonight on Friday, October 7th, I will be doing a Demon Hunter 10 to 60 speed run, attempting to further set my world record. Because right now I have the world record for fastest 10 to 60 speed run. I'm going to knock that down by probably a couple of hours with this Winds of Wisdom buff.
Yeah.
I am thinking sub 5 hours pretty easily. Possibly 4.5. If we get really lucky, maybe even 4 hours. I don't know. Uh, but I think it'll be somewhere around 4.5 to 5 hours is kind of where I'm thinking it'll end up being at. But we'll see. Who knows? Could be faster. But
Yeah.
tune in at, my Twitch is up top here. Uh, Twitch.tv/Buckblind. The YouTube channel, which is where this will be posted at, as well as on Spotify and iTunes and RSSfeed.com. You'll be on our YouTube channel, which mine is Buckblind the Demon Hunter. You can also follow me on Twitter at BuckblindDH. And then Bioshock, What are your Twitch and your YouTube? I know they're up on the left side of the screen or the right side of the screen there, but
Twitch is QQ_Bioshock, and YouTube is the same.
yep, QQ
I
underscore
haven't
Bioshock.
I haven't made any YouTube videos yet. I've been kind of lazy, but I'm probably gonna start doing stuff once pre-patch comes. I'm thinking.
Yep, yep. You should definitely do some PvP stuff on there.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people like PvP. I'm not one of those people, but is what it is. I know a lot of people love PvP. I know you're very good at PvP, so I think that'd be fun for people to get to see and check out some of your instances of beating top tier PvPers. But yeah, nope, that is pretty much it. You got anything else to add?
Nope.
Alrighty. So hope you all enjoyed episode 2 of Control Alt Deplete. We're gonna call this episode "Why Does Blizzard Hate Mythic Plussers?" But yep, nope. We enjoyed it. Hopefully, you all enjoyed the podcast, and check in next Friday for our third episode. I think we are going to do a weekly podcast as of right now. We'll see. We might
Start.
just
Yeah.
depend. Yeah, if it's a slow week, we might hold off and wait for another week. But yeah, I think we're going to do weekly for right now. But
Yep.
thank you all for watching. Hope you all have a great week. Good luck on your vaults and your loot. And have a good one.
Bye.